Using his freedom of speech to its fullest extent, it's John James and Freedom's Pep Rally. Now, America's friendliest host, your buddy, John James.
We have a special guest. I'm gonna show you I'm gonna cover my face here for a minute, and that's okay. I love this. I love this. Except I hate spiders. Spiders drive me crazy, and I wonder if I'm going to be frightened by the actual spider. Raymond Arroyo, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. How are you, John?
I'm doing fantastic. My word, the spider. I've got arachnophobia, buddy.
Well, don't have arachnophobia. Look, I even had Ann Rice, my old pal from here in New Orleans, write me a note, and she said, I hate spiders, but I love the book. It's really not about spiders. This is an old legend, John. It goes back to the 2nd century, and we can talk about where it came from, but I came across this.
Excuse me, Raymond.
Go ahead.
Is it could I get a little bit more level on your microphone? Is that possible?
Oh, I don't know what I did. Now you're asking me to do things I have no idea. Is
Okay.
that better? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that'll be okay. You're a little low, but I think we'll make do.
Shall I scream? Would it
You
help
could
if I raise my
scream.
voice?
You could
Yeah.
scream.
The loud. Is it better now? Is that better when I'm a little?
That's still kind of low, but we'll, as I say, we'll make do.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know what I'm doing here. That's part of the problem. This is why I have technicians, John. They do this stuff for me. You asked me to come out of the house. What do you expect? This is what you get. No makeup, terrible lighting, and bad sound.
No, that's great. People, we can still hear you. We'll fix it up too in post production when we rerun it, so it'll all be good. It's
so
all
the
going to be
rerun
great.
will be better than the original, which often happens. But
now, I love your. You're on Friday Follies with Laura Ingram. I love that, and you're just a fun guy. And you also work for EWTN, right? That's the
I do.
The
I'm the
Catholic
founding
news.
news director there. And this story. People were asking me the other day, why did you write this story? Well, it was an old legend from Eastern Europe, and I loved the idea that it was about. First of all, I'd never heard this story before. And it's about a spider that meets Mary, Joseph, and Jesus in a cave as they fly to Egypt. Well, it also explains why we decorate trees with tinsel, John, which I'd never, I thought that was icicles. Well, it's not. This was an Eastern European tradition that came out of this story. So we kept the cultural remnant, but we lost the story somewhere around the way. And it's a sweet story, and it's one that it's really resonated with families.
Really? Now, is the tinsel supposed to represent like a web or an icicle?
The web, yes.
Really?
The spider web that this spider provides. I don't want to ruin the story, but she provides a particular service to Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. And the reason, we were 5 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list with this little picture book. And part of the reason is families feel like this family. They've been locked in caves trying to protect themselves from sudden death. But the story here is there is hope. There is possibilities of miracles if you're open to it. And if the love of family continues, no matter where you are. And that's part of what I think is touching so many people, and certainly touched me when I first came across the story.
That's terrific. Now, how big a book is this? All pictures, and is it for kids? I would imagine it's for the whole family, right?
I call it a family read. I don't write for children like L. Frank Baum, who wrote the Wizard of Oz stories. I write for the young and the young at heart. So we have I have 89-year-old readers. I have 5-year-old readers. So it's an amazing multi-generational approach. And I love the idea that they're sharing the story together, which was the intention. That's why I decided to turn it into a picture book rather than a novel, so that everybody could have an on-ramp. But it points to the central mystery of why we celebrate Christmas. And it really is about God made man and how fragile that was. Look, this is a kid on the run. We never talk about this during Christmas, but it's the truth. I had a reporter ask me the other day, do you think Christianity is under assault this Christmas? And I said, well, it's been under assault since the first Christmas. Yeah. You had worldly powers sending soldiers out to kill this child. And that's what's happening in this tale when I recreate it. They're on the run from Herod. And that is, as ever it's been. There are worldly powers who are threatened by the power of God and the divinity. God made man. So I wanted to capture a little bit of that and get us all to reflect on that at Christmas time. It's important.
I love that. I love that. And I was thinking, I thought, I can't, because I couldn't wait to have Raymond Arroyo on the show. And I thought, I'm going to ask him, why a spider, not like, a wallaby or a panda bear, but it's clear now.
Yeah.
Why? You've made it clear.
Yeah, I was stuck. It was an old legend.
I couldn't.
Yeah. I would love to have made it the panda who saved Christmas, but pandas in the Middle East,
yeah, right,
probably
exactly.
a hard sell.
Exactly, you're absolutely right about that. So I'm wondering, and maybe you don't know how long the spider actually. I hope the spider doesn't die in the story like Charlotte's Web, because that upset my grandson.
Yes, this spider does not die. I promise.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I'm wondering if maybe. The spider eventually, between you and me, I don't want kids to think the wrong thing here, but the spider might have gotten stepped on before it rained for 40 days and 40 nights in Noah in the ark, huh? You think maybe?
Curiously enough, in the open of this story, because it felt true to me when I was starting to write it, when Joseph, Mary, and Jesus walk into the cave, he sees the spider hanging over his, wife and child. He grabs a staff and tries to, slash at it. She stops his hand and says, "Let it be, Joseph. All are here for a reason." And that little moment really captures the entire story. It's about how every one of us has a gift, no matter how small it is, John, no matter how people talk it down or try to hide it. That gift may be needed and necessary, and it can even turn all of history on that one little decision to give something to others and to God. And that's what happens in the story. And it's a great on-ramp for kids into the Christmas story in a new way. The shepherds and the wise men, that's getting a little creaky, and the kids have no way to put their arms around it. The spider gives them a way into the story. And what I've determined is, you and I really don't like spiders. Children love spiders. The creepier, the better. They love spiders. So I stumbled on something here, and I'm kind of glad I followed through and didn't write the panda who saved Christmas.
Well, no, I think you're absolutely right. Raymond Arroyo, our guest, Fox News contributor, author of The Spider Who. I see you humanized the spider who saved Christmas.
Yes,
not just a story; it's a legend, and I love that.
Yeah.
And you know what, Raymond, I've got to say, the time is right for something like this. And if this is an on-ramp to get kids and parents to converse about Christmas and the true meaning of it, you think about where we have gone. We have gone from back when I was a kid and you were a kid, it was, we could go to the State House here in Augusta, Maine, and they had this really cool nativity set up, this whole long thing, and it was like an epic adventure. Every year the parents would take us to see this nativity, and there was displays with Santa Claus too, but the nativity was part of it. Now it's like you can't have anything to do, even private residences. Some neighborhoods don't allow nativity scenes as part of their bylaws.
Yeah. Well, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy, John, because, this speaks in some ways to everything you talk about day in and day out, 5 days a week. The founders created America, and when they created it, this experiment was predicated on a couple of things: an informed populace and a moral people. And that second part, well, the first part's probably out of the question too, an informed populace I'm kind of dubious about, but a moral people. Franklin talks about this, Sam Adams, John Adams, and Hamilton, who's hanging in the portrait behind me here. All of these men understood, if you don't have a moral people, you don't have a system that can hold. Democracy crumbles. So the expression of faith, religious education, moral formation, all of that is needed to preserve a republic. And that doesn't mean you impose your beliefs on others or make them believe something, but to have it available, the freedom to speak your beliefs and your deepest held thoughts and morals. There's no shame in that. And I think Christmas affords us a beautiful opportunity to not only talk about why we commemorate Christmas, but show it. Show it. You know, I miss the days of caroling. In fact, this year I made a commitment. I'm gonna go caroling this year. When we were younger, we used to go door to door in the neighborhood caroling. That's a lovely display of faith, and it's not. You're not imposing anything on anybody. You're giving people love, which is what that season is all about. The coming of God, who is love.
Absolutely. I remember my church group and you're right. The caroling is something I haven't done for years, but
Right.
I was in church groups, and the youth group would go out to nursing homes, and some of these people, and now you got COVID and you don't even know if you can go near them, but they just love to see the kids. You know, they love the children coming in and hearing the Christmas carols, and the tears would be running down their eyes.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you don't appreciate the gravity of that. But now that I'm older, I'm thinking, you know, when I'm sitting in my rocking chair and I've got nothing to do but, you know, watch the time pass, when I see and just thinking about this chokes me up. Raymond.
Well, it's a way of sharing. You know, it's a way of sharing your devotion and love, and reminding people of the central mystery of Christmas. That's what it touches off. Look, we all get those warm feels during Christmas time, but I just want to channel that energy and those wonderful feelings to the reality of the season, rather than, you know, Hallmark movies and Santa Claus. I mean, I love those things, but they're not why we celebrate Christmas. And as a people, as a republic, it's important to keep those traditions alive. And it's part of the reason I wanted to write The Spider Who Saved Christmas, because the tinsel means something, but there are 1,000 traditions that we have that we've forgotten why we go through this ritual every year. And it's important that we remind ourselves and the next generation why we do the things we do and why they're important.
Amen. And I remember certain shows they used to show every Christmas when I was a kid actually had the real message of Christmas. One that stands out is the Peanuts special, the Charlie Brown Christmas special.
Right.
You know, they talk about the manger and the Savior. And I don't even know that maybe that's still on.
It's still on. Charles Schultz had to fight CBS to keep that scene in where Linus reads from Luke, because they wanted to pull it out. Now, that was in the 60s. They wanted to pull it out. It's still airing. I think PBS now and Apple have they air it every year, but you can still see it on PBS of all places. So that's a good thing. That's a good reminder. And I think we need more of that, not less. The growing secularization is a disservice. It disassociates us from the things that we go through. The tree, the evergreen tree, they didn't choose that because it was green. They chose it because it was evergreen, like the faith that you're supposed to maintain. All those the candy cane. You know, the candy cane was something created by Christians who were suppressed, couldn't express their faith. The 12 days of Christmas. All those things have meaning, and we should share that with each other and with our children. So when they see those iconic symbols and signs of Christmas, it means something deeper to them, and it's something they can pass along to their children.
Well, that's very good. I mean, a lot of these things I don't know, I guess, and I plead ignorance here. I don't know the symbolism of all these things that you mentioned. I don't know how many of these things do you actually cover in this book, if any of them?
Well, the only one I really look, when you're tackling the nativity is a big enough thing. Right. So we delve into that. But this story, I mean, on a deeper level, in the letters, I wish I could share with you some of these letters I get every day. This is about motherhood and sacrifice and protecting your child. These are eternal themes we can all relate to, but whether it's the spider protecting her, little sack of life that's in the corner of her web, or Mary protecting her newborn child, this is where we all are. And I wanted to connect that very human experience with the wonder of God intruding into everyday existence and bringing miracles, bringing hope amid great darkness and fear. And that's what the story's about. And frankly, I think it's where we are today. And we can lose hope real easy. but we shouldn't collapse into that. God will come sometimes in unexpected ways through broken or shadowy vessels that you never imagined.
Right.
And he breaks through and he brings hope. He brings grace. And that's what this season is about. Light in darkness and grace where you least expected it, in a stable among stinky animals. And we need that hope. And that's really what the story points to and why it's resonated so deeply, I think, with families.
That is great. I hope everybody, I'm going to get it. I'm going to read it to my grandkids. I can't
Please
wait.
do.
They love to be read to. The
Yes, they
Spider Who Saved Christmas, a Legend, by Raymond Arroyo, our guest this morning, Fox News contributor. Now, you also, you have quite a bit to do with the Ingram angle, correct?
Well, I'm an advisor on the show, so
Yep.
I help produce the segments and book some of the people on the show and shape the segments, and then our segment, the Seen and Unseen and Friday Follies, I construct that every night. I help Laura with the angle a little bit. She writes most of that herself though now. Early on I helped her write it, or I do a first pass. But she writes most of that herself now. So yeah, it's a group effort. It's a tiny band, but you're chasing the dragon every night. So it's tough because you got to, 10 o'clock is also a tough hour because,
Right.
7, 8, and 9 have already chewed over a lot of material. So you have to find interesting angles and new ways to tackle things that perhaps were missed earlier in the day or whatever breaking news is happening, which happened last Friday. We had taped a show. It was a really great show. And then Nancy Pelosi dropped that infrastructure package on us on the floor. So I came back in and anchored the beginning of the broadcast. So you have to be very reactive and ready for anything when you have that kind of show every night.
Right. Well, I've got to commend you, and I've got to commend Laura Ingram. And regardless of what Tucker and Sean say in their 2 hours, or whoever's hosting the 7 o'clock show, I find that even if it's a rehash of the same stuff, the angle that Laura opens the show with is it's another perspective. I like different perspectives on the same stories. Because I always see something new. I never thought of it that way, and that's what I love.
Well,
about
Laura
the Ingram
has
angle.
always been, and I both of us are bothered by repeating ideas and repeating lines. It's just not, it doesn't serve the audience. It's no good. Laura has always been an original thinker from her days in radio to, as a lawyer to now. And we do try to find original points of view. And not only that, new guests and new perspectives and stories that are not often considered. And I love the idea. And I know she prizes herself on breaking new ground. And we really have. Through the COVID thing, religious liberties, legal perspectives on mandates and these other things that are assailing us from all sides, and the personal stuff. Look, Laura was on the very tip of the spear in Loudoun County. We went there last February, and did a town hall with parents who were upset that the schools were shut and the curriculum was corrosive. And look what happened. So she has a real sense of what's coming just around the corner. And then, but that's instinct. That's gut. You can't teach that.
No, it's amazing. And all of these stories are so important, and they have really shaped been the definition of the Biden administration, all the divisiveness, whether it's in Loudoun County, Virginia, where critical race theory and it was in Loudoun County also where this dude wearing a dress went into the girls' room, right? That was in Loudoun County.
Correct. No, I lived there for 11 years. We lived there. We're now in New Orleans, but our children were in those public schools. So we saw that up close and watched one of the best public school districts in the country just evaporate and erode. And it's a very transient place, and you've got forces pulling. But I always say people will follow political narratives, even to their own detriment, until it affects their children. And that's what happened in Loudoun. It finally hit the kids, and the kids came home and said, "Hey, Mom, they're teaching me this." And no matter what your political perspective, you're like, wait a minute. And then when they said, well, parents are not welcome here, shut up, go home, we'll take care of it. you saw the reaction, and you'll
Right.
continue to see that reaction.
Well, when Merrick Garland sicked the DOJ on the parents, and
Yeah.
now he's doing the same thing with, I'm sure you're probably friends with James O'Keefe at Project Veritas. They did a pre-dawn raid on his
I
house
saw
the other
that.
day.
Yeah,
It's
I saw that.
and none of this is within the purview of the Department of Justice. So
No.
where is this going? Why are they throwing the Constitution to the curb?
Well,
Raymond
I'm
Arroyo?
deeply concerned about our First Amendment rights here. We talk about every other right, but we forget these are not rights, by the way, just to bring this full circle. These are not rights that are conferred on us by Merrick Garland or Joe Biden or Donald Trump or anybody else. These are rights conferred on us by God. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press is, now obviously that's an extension of our free speech rights, but these should be sacrosanct, because when you lose that, the American people lose their ability to be informed and moral. You lose that ability. If someone from on high says, no, we're not going to talk about that, or you can't talk about that, or you can't cover that, or we think you're a threat to us, so we're going to interdict you and block you, either shut you down or arrest you on very, very flimsy evidence. So we'll see where this goes. But I think all of these things have to be fought in court. And sadly, they're very expensive battles to wage, but it's important to wage them. They are battles critical for no matter your political persuasion, because freedom of speech is an essential American and God-given right. You have to protect it.
What I love seeing, Raymond, is that a lot of people on the left are they're over the cancel culture and the wokeism, and some of the more moderate centrists are starting to speak out too. There's a certain element on the left I don't think we're ever going to get, until hopefully we don't lose our freedom and independence, and then they will be the first to, well, why didn't you tell us? Well, we tried to tell you.
Yeah.
But
anytime you look, you look at, there are barometers you can check to see where society is. The economy is one reflection, which is not so hot. Economy is just a reflection of the heart and soul of the people, and how they operate and how they are trading and commuting in the public space. That's wobbly right now. But when you plunge deeper in the political numbers, Joe Biden has lost 70+% of independents. You've lost the country at that point. And remember, those were the voters that swung his way and gave him that, narrow victory in some of those states. That's a bad omen. But for the message to be, we're not going to back down, we are going to press on. That's amazing. And it's political hubris we've seen before. Sadly.
Yeah, it's very scary, and the whole COVID mandate thing, which another example of them throwing the Constitution off to the side. There is no informed consent. There is no information for both sides. I pride myself in telling people both sides, if you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. If you don't want to get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. But here's what you should know. It does help people with comorbidities. It appears to give them a better chance at fending it off and not getting as sick. On the other hand, there are, we hear ivermectin, we hear hydroxychloroquine. These have been proven, but because of Trump, we can't talk about them, but you should know about them. And you should also know about many of the adverse effects that have been created by these vaccines. But you don't get both sides. There is no informed consent. And it doesn't seem to be allowed by the administration, Raymond.
Well, I think, again, to harken back to what we saw in Loudoun County, now you have the administration pushing vaccines for 5 to 11-year-olds.
Right.
Okay. Parents are suddenly, it's one thing to say you have to take the vaccine to save everyone. Now you're talking to about 5 and 11-year-olds for whom the death rate from COVID is practically nil. Hospitalizations are nil. Even transmissibility of the virus in the classroom setting. They've been in class for a year and a half without a vaccine. We have no major spread, okay? And there's multiple studies, Israeli studies, European studies, that show that kids don't hold the viral load. They don't pass it on the way adults do. why we're imposing this on children is a question parents are increasingly asking. And 27%, only 27% are open to vaccinating their kids now between 5 and 11. So I think they're pondering those hard facts. And when you see myocarditis, I mean, I have a physician I have coffee with, and he told me the other day, you had a football player here in New Orleans, young kid throwing the ball, suddenly hospitalized for 3 weeks with heart inflammation. And that is attributable to the vaccine, they believe. So these are considerations that I think have to be weighed by everybody. They should be free to weigh them, and real evidence should be proffered. But when you have vaccines with warnings about clotting, myocarditis, all of these vaccines currently carry those warnings, people should be allowed to decide whether they want to take them or not take them. That's their freedom. And my choice, what I did or didn't do, is not of no one's concern,
Right.
because you're protected. And you need to feel protected. And that's the most important thing. Again, it should be a freedom. And we're also not talking about, people say, oh, well, look, we have vaccine mandates in place. You can't go to elementary school unless you have, rubella and mumps and smallpox. You need those vaccinations. That's all fine. Those are what's called, and doctors will tell you, they're called perfect vaccines, because there are very few side effects and there's no breakthrough cases, John. That's not what we're talking about in these very early experimental vaccines. These are not perfect vaccines. They have a diminishing, I wish that were not true, but they have a diminishing effective rate after a few months. And sadly, the studies seem to indicate that the viral load that you carry as a vaccinated person is equal to that of an unvaccinated person. Right. So the level of protection is a question here. So until these vaccines are perfected, I think people should have freedom to say, I don't want that now, or okay, I want 3 shots. That's up to them.
Well, the strong arm of the government, you had Jill Biden at a Virginia school with little children, telling them basically what I heard from it, and we aired the audio from that earlier this morning. What I heard her say as a parent is she was telling the kids basically, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but telling the kids, you need to get the vaccine. And if you don't get the vaccine, your parents just don't care about you. And I'm thinking this is not the America that we know. I mean, this it doesn't feel right.
I did this on the show last night with the whole Big Bird controversy, which, look, as I said, Big Bird pushed vaccines in the 1970s. Those were perfect vaccines. These are imperfect vaccines, and that's fine. But if Jill Biden wants to make a case for vaccinating children, go to the adults, go to the parents. Do not go to my babies. Don't go into the classroom. This is not your backdrop. My kid is not your backdrop for political activity. And I feel that way about Jill Biden going into the classroom. I also feel the same way about that California teacher who was telling kids, Donald Trump's still president. That's her political view. I don't want that in the classroom. I don't want any politics in the classroom. Just teach my baby, teach my kid, establish reading, writing, and arithmetic and a basic clean take on American history. That's really what parents want. So I object to the politicization of the classroom and trying to cajole children into accepting a vaccine. That's not their call. It's mommy and daddy's call. Full stop.
Right. Absolutely. Have you seen the ad? This is a very Orwellian ad that Pfizer put out with the superhero kids.
Oh no, I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Do you want to see it? Can we take the time? Sure. I don't know how much time you've got.
I have a few more minutes, so yeah, I'll take a peek at it.
Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the Pfizer ad, and this is the kids' superheroes.
Getting ready to fight COVID.
All of us want to be superheroes. And the most important heroes are those that help others. This year, thousands of kids like us around the world joined the COVID-19 vaccine trial.
Kid power.
And when they did, they became all superheroes. To all the kids who volunteered, we'd like to say,
thank you! Thank you!
Thank you for sharing your superpowers of courage, trying new things,
the ability to save people,
the power to help people,
Helping not just yourself, but many other kids.
to not be scared, be strong, super brave,
Bravery and courage.
a superhero shot, helping everybody, fight coronavirus and help others. You're helping the whole entire world. Thank you. You are all superheroes.
Thank you!
Thank you, superheroes. Thank you. You're awesome.
Well, there. How about that, Raymond?
Gosh. Well, first of all, my first reaction as somebody in the media is Pfizer has made billions of dollars off the federal government pushing these vaccines, selling them multiple repeat sales to the elderly, repeat sales to the middle age. Now we're getting kids, now boosters, and they can't afford a cameraman and a decent editor. Well, who recorded this commercial? This thing looked like it was shot on an iPhone, by one of my kids. This is terrible. I mean, the production value is just awful. Okay,
Right.
There's like 5 Pfizer kids. The parents.
Yep.
Now you're a superhero. Could they at least gotten them costumes? I mean, it's like chinchy crap hanging around from Halloween. It looked awful. But the worst thing is the content of that message. Teaching a child that being a superhero is taking a vaccine and following orders of a corporation. Okay. Or following the government. That is the opposite of a superhero. The superhero is the loner who goes out and saves people despite the societal pressure, despite what everybody's telling you, whether it's Superman or Batman or Spider-Man. That's the classic superhero, and they were modeled on a guy named Jesus that I wrote about. So this is, and you know how he ended. I mean, that there is a cost. There's a cost for being a superhero, but you'd never know it from that ad. So I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
Again, why are we marketing vaccines to children? We should market vaccines and comfort with vaccines to the parents of children. So I don't like this targeting tots. They don't have the responsibility or the ability to allow the shot into their arm. And when that happened, and it happened here in New Orleans, by the way, we had a high school that opened up a pop-up clinic. A 16-year-old walked up and claimed he had a letter from mama. He took the shot. His mother is now suing the school and the medical center for vaccinating her child without her permission. So that case is going to blow up big. So all these pop-up clinics, and I don't know if you reported on this, Jill Biden yesterday, Dr. Jill is hitting all the schools. And they're writing letters to superintendents and principals to open up vaccine clinics at elementary schools throughout the country. Now, you don't think kids are going to walk up and they're going to be non-approved vaccinations there? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, well, that's what we're seeing in Maine. We had a mom on the air the other day who was actually keeping her kids out of school on the day that they're offering the clinics because the nurse and the kids are going to have meetings together without the parent to No. I just look.
I'm all for medical intervention and vaccinations, but all the information needs to be made transparent. And the fact is, the downside for little children with robust immune systems is very steep. And look, I'm not a doctor, but I consult and talk to a lot of them, epidemiologists, disease specialists, all across the nation, even in your area, New Jersey, who've dealt with hundreds and hundreds, approaching 1,000 COVID cases, one of the physicians we talked to. And they will tell you to a man, you don't need to vaccinate little children with this vaccine. It's fine for older kids, and adults and people with comorbidities and on the margins.
Right.
But little children, there's just no evidence that they need this intervention, which again, if we had real entrepreneurial investigative journalists, somebody should probe into the FDA, CDC, cross-pollination with these pharmaceuticals.
Right.
There's something going on that needs scrutiny. But when you're talking billions of dollars, and Joe Biden bought millions of shots for children weeks before the FDA was even entertaining approving these shots for kids, he had already purchased them. Something's going on here. We're putting the cart before the horse. Right. It would be like me buying winter coats for people and it's July. Something is off here. I know something you don't. And I don't like the way this is playing out and the lack of voice from professionals who you remember all the resignations of those FDC, the Food and Drug Administration officials, because they said, wait a minute, we don't like the way this is moving. You're putting politics first. Yep. Those people vanished, John. We never heard of them. We never spoke to them. It bears real scrutiny, and the American people better start asking questions.
They sure had better. I mean, even Harvey Risch, Dr. Ben Carson, Dr. Robert Malone, one of the inventors of the mRNA shot, said, what kids? Why? It doesn't make sense. Yep. And when you have people like that questioning it, and people like Dr. Jill, who, by the way, I don't know if you are aware of this, but according to this woman, she would make a great Surgeon General.
I'm hoping Dr. Jill becomes a Surgeon General. His wife. Joe Biden's wife, because he would never do it, but she's a hell of a doctor. She's an amazing doctor.
Yeah, she's an amazing. That's Whoopi Goldberg. She'd be a great Surgeon General. Isn't she a doctor of education?
Well, if Whoopi has cardiac problems, I hope Dr. Jill can be the consulting physician. That'll be good. I mean, this is crazy talk. It's like saying Dr. Phil should be my, brain surgeon. This is crazy. These people have no qualifications. We need credible people. And because you like someone politically doesn't entitle them to have jurisdiction over your health or things like medicine. Medicine and science, it's an evolving thing, and new data and experience teaches you lessons about medicine. We all know this, but for some reason, we have been fixed on COVID, and it's an unmoving narrative. And science, data, new therapeutics, all of that is thrown out, and natural immunity is simply ignored. I don't understand that, and neither do the epidemiologists and the clinical practitioners and the nurses I talk to almost every week. And they're dealing with COVID patients. They are responsible for life and death. I think we should talk to those people first. Joe Biden's always talking about, I want an economy, we grow from the middle out. How about medicine from the middle out rather than the top down? Let's start there.
Yeah, my wife's a nurse, and we've talked recently to a good nurse who moved to Maine from North Carolina, who lost her job. She had natural immunity and she had a religious exemption, but the governor said, nope, not going to accept it. You're gone. See you later. She had to pay back her moving expenses, and she's in northern Maine. Her husband's going to school, or was going to school, for his nurse practitioner. And so they're both out of work now. They have to pay back $4,500 in moving expenses, and neither of them has a job. And this
is again, we're back to religious freedom. You need religious freedom. You're entitled to religious exemptions from governmental mandates, no matter what they are, when it involves your body or your family. And let's see, there are multiple cases. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals right here in New Orleans just put a stay on the Biden vaccine mandates. So we'll see where that goes, and as it moves up the chain. But Fifth Circuit is a big circuit, so it's that means something. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks. My guess is this will not stand congressional scrutiny or constitutional scrutiny.
Well, I always keep, even my political opponents, I pray for them, and I pray they see the light. I pray that the country is watched over. I believe it is. But it's getting pretty dicey, Raymond Arroyo, and I'm worried about it. But I will say, get the Spider Who Saved Christmas, a legend. I'm going to get it. I can't wait. I can't wait.
You will love it. You will love it. But the most important thing is to read it to your grandchildren, your children, and make it part of your family traditions. That's what I wanted for the book, and that's what's happening. So have a great Merry Christmas. Thank you for having me on.
Merry Christmas to you, Raymond Arroyo. Tell Laura Ingraham hi. I'm a big fan of the whole lineup.
I got to talk to her in 5 minutes here, so I'll definitely tell her.
Thank you so much. You have a great day. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
God bless you.
God bless you, Raymond.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.